Chapter 6 is on photosynthesis, which is often challenging for students. You may need to read this chapter twice for sure, as well as watch the video several times until you truly understand the process. This first video is on the overview of photosynthesis. What does it do, and what or who does it? Well, here are some organisms that photosynthesize. You're probably comfortable with the green things around you, the trees, the flowers. There's a sunflower, mosses, they photosynthesize. So everything green around us is photosynthesizing. In the water will be single-celled protists such as euglena and diatoms. They photosynthesize. Huge kelp beds exist on the west coast of our country. Those photosynthesize. Single-celled bacteria called cyanobacteria photosynthesize. They have been photosynthesizing on our planet for millions of years. Do birds do it? Do bees do it? No, leaves do it. So we'll look at our leaf here, which is broad and flat to accept a lot of the sun's energy. If you look at a close-up of that leaf over here, you will notice small holes on the underside of that leaf, and those holes are called stomata, singular stoma. That hole will allow gases to come in, such as carbon dioxide, and gases to escape, such as oxygen. The chlorophyll is located in the mesophyll cells. So here is a mesophyll cell, and it's filled with many green globs. Each green glob is a chloroplast. You can see that a single cell may have dozens of chloroplasts, and these chloroplasts stream around the inside of the cell. They do not stay in one location. The chloroplast is a double membrane. Inside is more membrane, these green discs called thylakoid discs, and the membrane is called thylakoid membrane. The first phase of photosynthesis occurs here in the grana, which is a group of discs, and the second phase of photosynthesis occurs in the stroma, which is the gel-like substance between the discs. The sun's energy is required for this process. This is a chemical reaction for photosynthesis. On the left-hand side are reactants. On the right-hand side of the arrow, which means yields or produces, are the products. So we can see that what is required for photosynthesis is water and carbon dioxide. Do you know how the plant gets its water? Through the roots. And how about the carbon dioxide? Through the stoma, the holes on the underside of the leaf. The product will be CH2O or carbohydrate. A familiar carbohydrate is glucose, C6H12O6. Glucose is the chief organic energy source for almost all organisms. Another product besides glucose is oxygen. You can also notice that these hydrogens are basically added to the CO2. When we add those hydrogens to CO2, it is called reduction. So the way it is talked about is that the carbon dioxide is reduced to carbohydrate because of the gain of those hydrogen atoms. Which equation is correct? D is correct. Oxygen is a product, and you'll notice A, B, and C all have oxygen as a reactant. The oxygen belongs over here on the right-hand side as a product with glucose, C6H12O6. Step 1 of photosynthesis requires light. It takes place in the thylakoid membrane, and the light hits the chlorophyll molecules, which are pigments, and excites the electrons or energizes the electrons. It results in the production of ATP, or adenosine triphosphate, the energy molecule. Here's the sun's energy coming in and hitting the thylakoid membrane. Remember, this stack of thylakoid discs is called a grana. Water is required. Where does the light reaction take place? Well, there are many answers to this. You could say inside the chloroplast, but more specifically, you would say the thylakoid membrane. What gas is produced? You can see oxygen coming out of the chloroplast. What else is produced? Well, coming out of the thylakoid is ATP and NADPH. You have no idea what NADPH is yet, but it's a hydrogen carrier. ATP we know is adenosine triphosphate, the energy molecule. Step 2, it used to be called the dark reaction. It's called the Calvin cycle. It occurs in the stroma. CO2 is used, and ATP and NADPH are used. And CO2 is reduced to carbohydrate. Where does it get the hydrogens for the reduction? From water. Water is split to form oxygen. So the second phase takes place in the stroma. What gas is needed for the Calvin cycle? CO2 is needed. CO2 is going into the Calvin cycle. What is needed to form carbohydrates? Well, the CO2, but also the NADPH and the ATP.